grey, sombre sky hung low over Bridgemont. A steady rain turned the cobblestone streets slick and reflective. Noah Carter trudged along the uneven sidewalk, his worn backpack slung over one shoulder and his face betraying the strain of long nights spent balancing the final year of law school, a meager part-time job, and an avalanche of debts left behind by his late father. At just 24, every day felt as though the walls of the small college town were closing in on him, compressing his world into a narrow space of anxiety and responsibility. Lost in his thoughts on another gloomy afternoon, his phone vibrated sharply in his pocket, slicing through his reverie. With a hesitant breath, Noah answered. "Noah Carter speaking." On the other end came a composed, authoritative voice. "Mr. Carter, this is Catherine Whitmore. I would like to speak with you regarding your financial situation. Please meet me at the Moonstone Cafe at 7 p.m. The call ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving Noah both perplexed and inexplicably curious about the woman on the line. Questions whirled in his mind. Who was she? How could she possibly know about his predicament? Yet with little time to dwell on these uncertainties, Noah found himself drawn to the idea of an unknown solution to his mounting troubles. That evening, as the rain intensified and his threadbare jacket did little to stave off the chill, Noah made his way to the Moonstone Cafe. The inviting warmth and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped him as he stepped inside. In a secluded corner of the softly lit room sat a striking woman whose silver hair was arranged in an elegant modern style. Clad in a meticulously tailored suit that hinted at both power and a refined taste for luxury, she exuded an air of quiet command. "Noah," she greeted him with a subtle nod as she gestured for him to sit. "I'm Catherine Whitmore." Her tone was calm, measured, and every word carried an unspoken authority. Noah hesitated for a moment before taking the seat across from her. "What is this about?" he managed to ask, his voice tinged with both anxiety and cautious hope. Catherine wasted no time in getting to the heart of the matter. "I know about the debts your father left behind," she stated simply, her piercing, steely eyes locking onto his. "I am aware that you are barely scraping by. I'm here to offer you a solution." Her words hung in the air, and Noah's brows furrowed in confusion. "And what exactly are you proposing?" he inquired, struggling to grasp the full magnitude of her statement. Setting her porcelain teacup down deliberately, Catherine's gaze remained unyielding as she spoke. "Marry me," she declared, the words falling like a gavel in the quiet of the cafe. Noah blinked, certain he had misheard. "Excuse me?" he stammered. "You heard me correctly," she replied evenly, her voice imbued with an unsettling mix of firmness and softness. "This is not about romance, it is a business arrangement. I will settle every last one of your debts and secure your financial future. In return, you will become my husband." The surreal proposal sent shockwaves through Noah's already overtaxed mind. A disbelieving laugh escaped him. "You're serious? Why would you choose someone you barely know?" he protested, incredulity mingling with a flicker of desperation. Catherine leaned forward ever so slightly, her expression unchanging. "Exactly because you are young, unattached, and desperate enough to consider an opportunity that few would dare entertain. I do not seek love. I seek a partner to share my name, my estate, and my legacy. Think of it as a contractual arrangement, one that benefits us both." Noah's mind raced. The proposal was insane in its audacity, and yet the lure of a way out of his overwhelming financial burdens was undeniable. I need time to think about this," he managed, shaking his head in disbelief. "Of course," Catherine replied coolly, though her eyes betrayed a hint of urgency. "But do not delay. This offer will not remain open forever." "Ah!" With that, the call ended, and Noah was left alone with his turbulent thoughts as he made his way home through the relentless rain. That night, as he sat at the cramped kitchen table in his modest home, Noah's thoughts swirled like the storm outside. Across from him, his mother, Evelyn Carter, studied his downcast face with worry etched into every line. The cost of her ongoing treatments had drained their already meager savings, and the looming tuition fees for his younger sister, Lucy, added to the unbearable weight on his shoulders. In a soft, tremulous tone, Evelyn urged, "Noah, I know it sounds unthinkable, but if Ms. Whitmore is offering you help, perhaps it's worth considering. You have to do something before we all lose everything." Torn between the remnants of his pride and the desperate need to save his family from ruin, Noah found himself trapped in an agonizing internal battle. Ultimately, his love for his family and the crushing pressure of his responsibilities forced him to consider the unthinkable. The following morning, with a heavy heart and a mind awash in uncertainty, Noah returned to the Moonstone Cafe. There, as if she had been waiting for him all along, Catherine sat with her signature poise, absorbed in the soft glow of a tablet before her. "Have you made your decision?" she asked without lifting her gaze. Noah took a deep, steadying breath and, in a voice that trembled with both resignation and resolve, said, "I will do it." A faint, enigmatic smile curved Catherine's lips as she set her tablet aside. "Very well," she replied calmly. "The arrangements will be made immediately." A week later, under a sky that alternated between intermittent breaks of gloom and fleeting hints of light, Noah found himself standing in a small courthouse. Dressed in a suit provided by Catherine, he felt as though he were stepping into a realm where every detail had been meticulously prearranged. The ceremony was austere and private, attended only by Catherine's lawyer and a notary, as the couple exchanged vows that were as much legal declarations as solemn promises. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Catherine turned to him with a smile that did little to warm the chill in his heart. "Welcome to your new life, Mr. Carter," she intoned in a tone as measured as it was disconcerting. As they left the courthouse, a soft drizzle began once again, and Noah, gazing at his reflection in a rain-soaked puddle, wondered in a moment of profound despair, had he just saved his family, or had he sold his very soul? The sprawling Whitmore estate loomed ahead as Noah's cab pulled up along a long, winding driveway. The mansion, a sprawling structure that could easily have been mistaken for a museum of bygone eras, exuded the aura of old wealth with its towering columns and pristine stone facade. Yet there was an undeniable air of melancholy about it. The dark, lifeless windows gave the impression of a house that guarded too many secrets. With his suitcase in hand and a heart heavy with foreboding, Noah stepped from the cab, feeling like a visitor in someone else's meticulously curated dream, or perhaps nightmare. Inside the mansion, Catherine greeted him in a grand foyer with the same polished formality that had characterized their entire encounter. "Welcome, Mr. Carter," she said, her voice crisp and formal, sending a shiver down his spine. "I trust you will find everything to your satisfaction. Dinner is at 7. Noah nodded mutely as a housekeeper led him to his new room. The room itself was opulent beyond measure, a vast space featuring a king-sized bed, antique furnishings that whispered of a distant past, and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked meticulously maintained gardens. Despite the evident luxury, the atmosphere felt unnervingly cold, as if it had never known the warmth of human presence. That evening, at a long dining table set with exquisite precision, Noah sat stiffly while Catherine occupied the seat at the opposite end. Dressed impeccably in a silk blouse and adorned with pearls, she cut into her fillet with the precision of a skilled surgeon. "I trust you are settling in," she said casually, her tone both reassuring and commanding. Noah ventured hesitantly. "This place is enormous. It feels like I might get lost in it." A slight smirk tugged at Catherine's lips as she replied, "You will either get used to it, or you won't. Either way, you are here now." Her bluntness stung, and Noah's unease deepened when he mentioned, "You haven't said much about your late husband." For a moment, Catherine's knife paused mid-cut, and she dabbed her mouth with a pristine napkin before continuing in a tone that shifted from detached to darkly reminiscent. "He was a businessman, much like your father. Our paths crossed on several occasions, though as you might imagine, not every encounter ended well." The implications of her words made Noah's pulse race, and he sensed that there was far more to Catherine's past than she had yet revealed. As the days passed within the vast and silent corridors of the Whitmore estate, Noah found himself increasingly unsettled. The mansion, with its numerous locked doors and echoing hallways, felt less like a home and more like a labyrinth of hidden secrets. The staff, who moved with an almost ghostly silence, avoided eye contact and spoke in hushed tones when they thought he was not listening. Whispers of strange happenings and furtive glances seemed to follow him at every turn. One evening, while wandering through a quiet section of the extensive library, Noah's attention was captured by a scattering of papers on a desk, along with a small, ornate key that glimmered under the soft glow of a desk lamp. The key's intricate design and cool, unexpected weight in his hand sent a thrill of apprehension down his spine. Could this be the key to one of those locked doors? He wondered aloud, slipping it into his pocket as his heart pounded in anticipation of what secrets it might unlock. That night, as Noah lay awake in the luxurious yet suffocating confines of his room, he turned the key over in his hands. A million questions swirled in his mind, but one stood out with overwhelming urgency. What was Catherine hiding, and why had she chosen him for this unholy alliance? In the oppressive silence of the mansion, every creak of the floorboards, every distant whisper of the wind against the windows, seemed to echo the mysteries that lay hidden behind locked doors and carefully guarded secrets. Unable to resist the pull of curiosity and the growing dread in his heart, Noah began to explore the mansion further. One moonlit night he crept down a long corridor toward a door he had noticed earlier, its ornate brass handle gleaming faintly in the silver light. With trembling hands, he inserted the key and turned it in the lock. The soft click reverberated in the silence, sending a chill straight to his core. Slowly he pushed the door open and found himself in a room that felt suspended in time. Dust-laden furniture, faded wallpaper, and an array of tarnished silver-framed photographs lent the space an air of forgotten history. Among the images were depictions of a younger Catherine in happier times, a solemn man who might have been her late husband, and even a couple whose identities remained a mystery to him. Yet it was not the photographs that truly captured his attention. It was a stack of legal documents on a nearby desk. Noah's hands trembled as he flipped through the documents. They detailed failed business deals, bitter disputes, and, most shockingly, a letter, scrawled in jagged, harsh handwriting that accused his father of fraud and deceit. "You ruined everything," the letter read. "My family was left with nothing because of your lies." His breath hitched as his eyes landed on a marriage license, bearing his own name and Catherine's, its date stamped several weeks before the wedding, a timeline that conflicted sharply with everything he had been told. Lying atop the pile of papers was an old leather-bound diary, its cover worn with time. With hesitant curiosity, Noah opened the diary and began to read the entries. They revealed a meticulously calculated plan. Catherine had intended from the very beginning to trap him in a marriage that would serve as both retribution and a means to control his family's legacy. "I will take everything from him," one entry declared, "just as your father did to me. He will be my pawn." The revelation left Noah frozen, his heart pounding with shock and betrayal. Before he could process the damning truth further, the door creaked behind him. Catherine's voice, icy and unyielding, sliced through the silence like a razor. "I see you found my secrets," she said, her silhouette emerging from the dim corridor light. Noah spun around, guilt and fear etched on his face. "Catherine, what is the meaning of all this? Why did you really choose me? Is this about my father? Is this some twisted form of revenge?" Her eyes narrowed into hard slits, and her usually impeccable composure began to crack. "It is not your place to ask questions," she snapped. "You will do as you are told, and you will leave this marriage in a far better position than you started. Is that not enough?" Anger welled within Noah. "Enough? You've lied, manipulated me, and turned this union into nothing more than a trap," he exclaimed, clenching his fists. A bitter smile curled on Catherine's lips, a smile that held both scorn and a trace of melancholy. "A trap, perhaps," she murmured. "Maybe you should have thought twice before you signed those papers." With that, she stepped closer, her tone turning venomous. "You may think you are clever, Noah, but you are just like your father, blind to the destruction you cause until it is too late." The weight of her words bore down on him like a crushing guilt, and despite the anger and betrayal simmering within him, he could not help but feel the sting of a legacy he never chose. Later that night, unable to find sleep, Noah lay wide awake in the vastness of his opulent yet oppressive room. The documents from the hidden room and Catherine's cryptic words tormented him, and every whispered creak of the mansion seemed to echo the secrets he was not meant to know. Eventually, the sound of faint, deliberate footsteps outside his door spurred him to action. He slipped out of bed and crept toward a distant study, straining to catch the conversation taking place there. Pressing his ear against the door, he heard Catherine's voice, sharp, authoritative, and laced with urgency. "Make sure the transfer is complete," she ordered. "We cannot allow him to back out now. Time is running out." Noah's blood ran cold as the gravity of the situation dawned on him. He was in far deeper than he had ever imagined, entangled in a web of secrets and schemes that threatened not only his future, but the very essence of who he was. In the following days, the once grand Whitmore estate transformed in Noah's eyes from a monument of wealth to a gilded prison. Every corridor, every locked door, seemed to conceal further revelations that he was determined to uncover. His growing unease eventually led him to confide in the estate's longtime head butler, Mr. Harris, a dignified man whose calm demeanor suggested that he had witnessed more than he ever let on. One rainy afternoon, with the mansion's mood matching his own, Noah approached Mr. Harris in a quiet corner of the sprawling estate. "Mr. Harris, I need your help," he said, his voice trembling with urgency. "Something is not right here. I've discovered things, secrets that suggest Catherine's intentions are far more complicated than I ever suspected." Mr. Harris regarded him with steady, knowing eyes, his hands clasped behind his back. "You must understand, Noah. You are not the first young man to be drawn into Miss Whitmore's world," he said softly. "She is clever, resourceful, and ruthless when it comes to her goals. I advise you to watch your back." The warning, delivered with an undercurrent of regret, chilled Noah to the core. "Why are you still here?" he asked, voice tight with tension. "If you know what she is capable of, why not leave?" Mr. Harris sighed, his expression softening ever so slightly. "Some of us do not have the luxury of walking away. I have seen too much to simply abandon my duty, but if you wish to find a way out, you must be careful." Determined to extricate himself from the life that was rapidly spiraling out of control, Noah reached out to an old friend from law school, Peter Larson, a sharp and resourceful young man whose legal acumen could perhaps offer him a way out. Under the pretext of discussing a class project, Noah broached the delicate subject. "Peter, hypothetically speaking, if someone were to sign a contract under coercion or false pretenses, is there any legal recourse to have it annulled?" Peter's eyes narrowed as he considered the question. "Hypothetically, yes," he replied cautiously, "but it depends entirely on the evidence you have. If the other party suspects you're onto them, things could get very dangerous." Noah nodded grimly, knowing in his heart that Catherine's world was one of danger and betrayal. Over the next several days, he worked in secret to compile evidence from every corner of the estate, rifling through Catherine's office when she was away, recovering letters and documents that painted a picture of deceit, betrayal, and a long-standing vendetta. One night, while sifting through a cluttered desk, he found an envelope addressed to his father. Inside was a searing letter in Catherine's hand, condemning his father for embezzlement, fraud, and a betrayal that had led to the financial ruin of her family and the untimely death of her husband. "You left us with nothing," the letter read. "My husband's heart could not bear the stress of your lies, and now he is gone. I will ensure that your family pays for what you have done." The revelations in that letter were more than a simple account of financial misdeeds. They were an indictment of a legacy of betrayal that had ensnared both families in a cycle of vengeance. Haunted by these discoveries, Noah resolved that he could not allow Catherine to use him as a pawn in her bitter quest for retribution. That very night, while the mansion slept under its oppressive silence, he began mapping out possible escape routes, determined to break free of the chains that bound him. Yet Catherine's acute instincts seemed to sense his unease. The following morning, as Noah sat in the formal breakfast room trying to steady his nerves with a weak cup of coffee, Catherine entered with her customary icy poise. "You've been busy, haven't you?" she said, her tone low and menacing, as she regarded him with an unreadable expression. Noah froze, his spoon hovering midway to his mouth. "I don't know what you mean," he stammered, his voice barely audible. Catherine's eyes flashed dangerously as she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Do not play coy with me, Noah. If you think you can outsmart me, you are gravely mistaken. I have dealt with opponents far craftier than you." Her words sent a jolt of fear and anger coursing through him. "I'm not betraying anyone," he managed to protest, though his voice quavered with uncertainty. "Then know this," she said sharply. "If you betray me, you will wish you had never tried. Remember that." With that final, chilling warning, Catherine turned on her heel and left the room, leaving Noah to grapple with the realization that his escape might be even more perilous than his entrapment. As days turned into a relentless series of sleepless nights and whispered conversations in shadowed corridors, Noah's resolve hardened. The damning evidence he had amassed, documents, letters, and even recordings, pointed to one inescapable truth. Catherine's proposal to marry him was not merely a means to settle his debts. It was a calculated revenge on his family for old wrongs that ran deep in her own past. In the hushed intimacy of the grand sitting room one fateful morning, Noah finally confronted Catherine. Standing with trembling determination and evidence clutched in his hands, he declared, "Catherine, we need to talk." Her eyes, normally so calm and unyielding, flickered in surprise as she arched an eyebrow. "Is that so? And what might be so urgent?" she asked, her tone clipped and measured. With a steadying breath, Noah spread out the documents on the table. "I know everything about my father's misdeeds, about the failed business ventures, and about your own family's tragedy. I know that this marriage was never about a union of hearts. It was about revenge. You planned this entire arrangement to make my family suffer, just as your husband suffered." For the first time, Catherine's carefully maintained composure wavered. Her eyes darted to the incriminating papers before returning to his gaze. "So you've been snooping again," she said, her voice tight with a mix of anger and resignation. "Do you even understand what your father did to my family?" Noah stepped closer, his voice rising with a mixture of hurt and righteous indignation. "I understand perfectly. I understand that you intended to use me as a tool to settle an old score. But what about the innocent people caught in the crossfire? What about me? I did nothing to deserve this." For a long, charged moment, silence reigned as the two faced each other, one seeking to exact revenge, the other demanding justice and freedom from a legacy of bitterness. Catherine's jaw tightened, and her eyes softened ever so slightly, as if haunted by memories of a pain too deep to fully articulate. "You remind me so much of him. Of Harold," she murmured softly, the name slipping out like a forbidden secret. "That same stubborn fire, that same unyielding determination. I never expected to feel anything akin to compassion, but here we are." Taken aback by her admission, Noah's heart faltered for an instant. "If you truly feel that way," he said quietly, "then you must stop this. Let go of the past before it destroys us both." Before Catherine could respond, the sound of tires crunching on gravel outside shattered the fragile calm of the room. Within moments, uniformed police officers, flanked by Peter Larson, burst into the sitting room. "Miss Whitmore, we have a warrant for your arrest on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy," one officer announced firmly. Catherine's face hardened as she looked from the officers to Noah, her expression a blend of cold defiance and quiet resignation. "You called them, didn't you?" she said icily. Noah met her gaze steadily. "You left me no choice," he replied evenly, his voice resolute. As the officers escorted Catherine from the room, she paused and, with one final piercing look, murmured, "You may think you've won, Noah, but remember, revenge is a fire that never truly dies." Her words echoed in the vast emptiness of the room long after she had disappeared from sight. In the aftermath of Catherine's arrest, the mansion transformed from a labyrinth of secrets into a monument of painful revelations. Noah's testimony, bolstered by the overwhelming evidence he had gathered, led to Catherine's conviction. Although the legal system had finally delivered its verdict, Noah felt no triumph, only the bitter residue of loss and the heavy burden of legacy. In the quiet days that followed the trial, as he sat silently in the back of the courtroom, Noah reflected on the complexities of their intertwined fates. Catherine's once imperious demeanor had been replaced by a fragile, almost apologetic expression. A subtle admission that perhaps her path, too, had been marred by regret. A few weeks after the trial, Noah was summoned back to the now eerily empty Whitmore estate. The mansion, once intimidating in its grandeur, now felt like a hollow shell, echoing with memories of a bitter past. In the stately foyer, an estate lawyer presented him with an envelope containing the deed to the entire property. Alongside the deed was a letter penned in Catherine's elegant handwriting. Noah, it read, "It was never about the money. It was about closure. Harold deserved justice, but in my pursuit of revenge, I lost sight of what truly matters. You have shown me the power of forgiveness and the possibility of moving forward. This estate is no longer a monument to my pain. It can be transformed into something more. Use it wisely." As Noah read and reread the letter, he felt a stirring of something long forgotten, a cautious hope that perhaps the cycle of vengeance could finally be broken. The decision that followed came with unexpected clarity. Noah sold the Whitmore estate, a decision that, despite the lingering melancholy of its grandeur, allowed him to pay off his family's crushing debts once and for all. The remaining funds were used to establish a scholarship fund in honor of Harold Whitmore, a tribute to the man whose fate had unwittingly set in motion this chain of events. The Harold Whitmore Scholarship for Second Chances was designed to offer support to students who, like Noah, had been caught in the crossfire of family legacies and financial ruin. Returning to law school with a newfound resolve, Noah embraced his studies and his burgeoning career with a determination born of hard-won experience. No longer defined solely by a desperate need for revenge or by the weight of his father's misdeeds, he sought instead to use his education to champion justice and compassion for those who had been wronged. Interning at legal aid centers, he dedicated himself to helping individuals whose lives had been derailed by greed, betrayal, and systemic failures. Slowly, the dark memories of the Whitmore estate began to recede, replaced by the promise of a future built on fairness and second chances. One crisp autumn afternoon, as vibrant leaves danced across the cobblestones of Bridgemont, Noah received a letter bearing the unmistakable, elegant script of Catherine Whitmore. Seated on a park bench near campus, he unfolded the paper with trembling hands. "Dear Noah, after many long months of reflection, I have come to see that revenge is a prison from which neither of us can ever truly escape. For years, I believed that reclaiming what was lost would heal my wounded heart, but your unwavering integrity has taught me that forgiveness is not a weakness, it is strength. Thank you for showing me that even the deepest scars can fade when compassion prevails. I wish you every happiness and hope that you find the peace I once thought unattainable. Sincerely, Catherine." Noah sat in silence, the words sinking deep into his soul. Folding the letter carefully, he tucked it into his jacket pocket as a quiet reminder that even the darkest pasts might one day yield to forgiveness and healing. In the months and years that followed, Noah Carter's life transformed in ways he had never imagined. The scholarship fund he established, now a beacon of hope in the tight-knit community of Bridgemont, provided opportunities for countless students who had once been written off by a system steeped in inequity. At a modest ceremony held in a refurbished community center, Noah addressed a group of scholarship recipients, his voice imbued with both conviction and humility. "This fund is not merely about financial support," he declared. "It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that our past does not have to dictate our future. We can transform pain into purpose and turn even the darkest chapters of our lives into stories of hope and redemption." His words, spoken with quiet passion, resonated with every listener in the room. After the ceremony, as the last of the guests filed out into the cool evening air, Noah found himself alone on a quiet street. He paused for a moment to gaze up at the now clear sky, the lingering vestiges of storm clouds slowly dissipating. In that brief, solitary moment, he felt the weight of the past begin to lift, a tentative promise of new beginnings and the possibility of a life free from the chains of inherited guilt. Catherine's letter, still safely tucked away in his pocket, served as a silent reminder of the lessons learned, that even amidst betrayal and heartbreak, the choices one makes can lead to healing and transformation. Noah's journey from the desperate corridors of debt-ridden uncertainty to the bittersweet triumph of exposing long-buried truths had forever altered him. In the quiet recesses of his mind, memories of stormy nights, hushed conspiracies in dimly lit hallways, and the echo of Catherine's once commanding voice mingled with a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. The legacy of his father's misdeeds, interwoven with Catherine's calculated vendetta, had once seemed like an inescapable burden. Now, however, that legacy was being rewritten through acts of compassion, justice, and the pursuit of second chances. In time, Noah emerged not as a victim of circumstance, but as a champion for those whose voices had been silenced by the weight of history. His legal career flourished as he dedicated himself to fighting for the underprivileged, his own painful experiences lending him a rare empathy and resolve that set him apart from his peers. In courtrooms and community centers alike, he became known not just as an attorney, but as a beacon of hope, a living reminder that the cycles of pain and revenge could be broken by the strength of forgiveness and the courage to do what is right. As Bridgemont slowly began to heal from the scars left by financial ruin and bitter family legacies, Noah Carter's story took on a life of its own, a story of redemption, resilience, and the transformative power of compassion. Every time he spoke at a community event or visited the local college, he recalled the rain-soaked days of uncertainty, the cold halls of the Whitmore estate, and the anguished eyes of a woman who had once been his captor in a cruel game of revenge. Yet, rather than clinging to the pain of the past, he had chosen to channel it into something positive, a legacy that offered hope to others. Years later, as Noah stood before a gathering of young scholars at a special ceremony dedicated to the Harold Whitmore Scholarship for Second Chances, he felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. The plaque behind him, a simple, elegantly inscribed reminder of the fund's purpose, spoke volumes about the journey from despair to hope. His words, measured and sincere, carried the weight of hard-won experience. This scholarship is not merely a means of financial support. It is a commitment to every individual who dares to dream of a brighter future. It represents our collective ability to rise above past mistakes and to forge a new path, one defined by empathy, justice, and the unwavering belief in second chances. After the ceremony, as dusk settled over Bridgemont and the town's lights began to twinkle like distant stars, Noah walked slowly along a familiar street. The burdens of the past had begun to lift, replaced by the steady promise of a future built on redemption and hope. In his pocket, Catherine's letter remained, a quiet memento of a once bitter enemy who, through her own journey of regret and forgiveness, had unwittingly helped him find the strength to overcome the darkest of times. Noah Carter's story is a testament to the fact that even in the midst of betrayal, manipulation, and the lingering shadows of old grudges, the choices we make can lead us to unexpected paths of healing and renewal. The storm that once threatened to consume him had given way to a clearer sky, a sky that promised not only the end of one chapter, but the hopeful beginning of another. And as he moved forward, each step was a silent affirmation that redemption and the transformative power of forgiveness were not only possible, but within reach for all who dared to seek them. In Bridgemont, the echoes of the past mingled with the vibrant promise of the future. The legacy of a desperate marriage forged in the crucible of revenge had in time become a catalyst for change. A reminder that even the most painful histories can be transmuted into something beautiful and enduring. Through his work, his advocacy, and the quiet power of compassion, Noah had turned his personal tragedy into a beacon of hope for others, proving that while the scars of the past might never fully disappear, they need not define the course of one's destiny. Thus, as the seasons changed and the once turbulent skies of Bridgemont gave way to brilliant sunlit days, Noah Carter continued his journey with a heart both battle-worn and resolute. He carried with him the lessons of betrayal, the cost of revenge, and ultimately, the liberating power of forgiveness, a power that had transformed his life, mended broken dreams, and opened the door to new beginnings. And in every quiet moment, whether in a bustling courtroom, a crowded lecture hall, or a solitary walk beneath a clear blue sky, he remembered that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, a single act of courage could light the way toward redemption and everlasting hope.